Kids are finally back in school. The pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks has arrived. That can only mean one thing. The fall housing market is here. And you can be guaranteed that this year's fall housing market is going to look completely different than the last couple years. How? That's exactly what we're going to talk about on today's episode. Hi, I'm Josh Alexander and your host of Orange County Housing Market News, your one-stop shop for all things Orange County real estate. So in today's episode, we're gonna go over my housing market forecast for fall 2022. What should you expect if you're a buyer or a seller over the next couple months before we hit the holiday season? That's exactly what we're gonna talk about today. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so like I do with all of these forecasting episodes, first we're going to briefly go over what's been happening over the last month in the Orange County housing market, where that puts us today, and then we're going to use some data and trends to look at what you should expect to happen in the housing market as we go through fall this year. So let's go ahead and look at what happened in August in Orange County. So over the month of August, on the supply side, we saw supply finally peak for the year and start heading down. So supply has been going up over the last couple months because interest rates have been higher. However, it has peaked and is now heading downwards. And that's completely typical for this time of year. It actually dropped 4% over the last week alone. And if you look at the total supply in the housing market, we are still very, very low. So we started the year out with the lowest supply ever, and we've added about 12% less homes than a typical year before COVID when you look at where we are right now. And we've actually added less homes this year on the market than we did during the COVID years as well. So supply is just not improving. It's going to remain low and continue dropping for the rest of the year. So on the demand side of things in August, we actually saw something kind of interesting. We saw demand actually increase throughout most of August, and that was due to interest rates going from 6.28%, dropping down to the low fives for a large chunk of August as well as most of July, and that put a lot of buyers in a better position, enabling them to be able to afford homes again. So we saw demand slightly rise over the month of August. However, interest rates have started going back up again, so I expect as we head into September, you're going to see that demand also peak for the year and start heading downwards, which it typically does during this time of year as well. So that brings us to where we are right now. So the average days on market for a typical home in Orange County is 63 days. So from the time you place a for sale sign in your yard to when it goes into escrow, typically is going to take around 2 months. And that puts us in a very slight seller's market where sellers still get to call a lot of the shots. However, you're not seeing a lot of homes with multiple offers anymore. Typically, you're going to get 1 to 3 offers on most homes in Orange County right now, and that's been the case for about the last month and a half. So if you're trying to sell a home right now on the market, yes, you still have a small advantage as long as you price it correctly. If you're trying to buy a house right now, the competition is way less than it's been the last couple of years, which means if you place an offer on a home, typically you're only having to compete with 1, maybe 2 other offers in order to get into escrow, which means that you no longer are having to bid up the prices, remove contingencies, and you can take your time looking for a house right now. So buyers that are entering the market right now are having greater success finding a home and not overpaying for it. So that brings us to what you should expect if you're thinking of either placing your home on the market in the next couple months or applying for a mortgage and buying a house over the next couple months as well. So typically during the fall market, you're going to see supply peak and go down. And like I just said, supply has already peaked for the year and it's starting to drop. So that's typically what you're going to see. And that's exactly what's happening this year. And on the demand side during the fall market, you can expect demand to continue decreasing as we go through the fall as well. And it usually decreases about the same as supply. So as demand goes down, supply goes down. And like I just said before, again, it looks like demand has probably peaked for the year and should be heading down, which again reflects a pretty normal market for the fall. So if you are thinking of buying or selling a home during the fall market, let me give you some advice. Let's first go ahead and start with the sellers because that's going to be the most dramatic shift compared to what sellers have been used to over the last couple years. So right now, yes, we are in a slight seller's market because demand is still slightly higher than supply, but it's not that significantly higher, which means on your end, you have to pay attention to a lot right now. Number one, you have to price your house correctly. If you overprice your home in this market, it is just going to sit there. You're not going to get offers. The demand is just not there to support that high of number anymore. You need to make sure that you partner with a real estate agent that is going to take the time to go over in detail all the most recent comps And ideally, they should probably only be using comps from the last 90 days because the market has definitely shifted. So that's going to give you a better picture of what your home should be worth right now. So they should be using those comps and accurately pricing your home and giving you a fair market value. If you're not doing that right now, again, if you overprice it, it's going to sit on the market and you're not going to have success selling your home during this fall market. So that's number one. Number two, if you do place your home on the market, those cell phone pictures that you see from realtors, that they're just taking pictures of the house, walking through, you see them in the mirror, it's not going to cut it anymore. Yes, you probably could have got away with that over the last 2 years during COVID because demand was out of control. However, in today's market, if you don't have the right marketing plan and marketing materials and you're not showing your house in the best possible light, it's going to be difficult to sell your house. So on your end, this means that you need to make sure you're having professional video, professional photos, 3D walkthroughs. You need to make sure you're also promoting your house on all the different channels. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Google. You need to make sure your agent is mailing things to the neighborhood your house is in. They need to be talking to those neighbors, trying to find as many buyers as possible to look at your house. And on top of that, you are probably going to have to put in some work before you place your house on the market. Right now, if your house is not move-in ready, which doesn't mean it has to be HGTV ready, it just means that buyers need to be able to move into the house and not have any major problems to deal with. So if you have old carpet, old flooring that's all beat up, most likely it's going to be a good idea to replace that. If you have dings and dents all over your walls, you're most likely going to have to repaint the interior of your house to make it look as good as possible, because when buyers walk in, you need to have that great first impression. If they walk in, it looks like every other home on the market right now, and your house is not standing out, the odds of you getting good offers or any offers at all dramatically decrease. So you need to be fixing those small things around the house that are broken. You need to make sure visually it looks great. So whether that's small repairs, doing some cosmetic work on the inside, outside of the house, including landscaping, getting your home staged right now so the buyers can better picture themselves living in the house and the house makes sense in terms of a theme and it all ties together. Those are the things that you're going to need to do in order to successfully sell your house during this fall market. So make sure whatever real estate agent you're working with can offer all these services for you and has recommendations for you on how to better prepare your house for sale so you have the best chance of success and your home doesn't sit on the market for months. Now, the other thing that sellers definitely need to make sure they're paying attention to that they didn't have to as much during the COVID years is you have to know what your current competition is doing. So what are the other active homes in your neighborhood? What are they priced at? How they look? Because you need to be competitive with that. When buyers have more options to choose from, they're going to be more picky on which homes they look at. So if you have a house down the street from yours that's in much better condition, more upgrades, it has a pool, and you're thinking of pricing it somewhere similar to that, you're not going to have success selling your home in today's market. So you need to make sure that you're pricing it not only based on the comps, but based on what's going on around your neighborhood to be able to attract as many buyers as possible, because the marketing price is not the same as the fair market value price. The marketing price is going to have to take into account what your competition is doing, what upgrades you have in your home, and what the fair market value of your house is, as well as what buyers are looking for. So for example, let's say that an agent goes to your house, does a comparable market analysis, and says that your house is worth $815,000. However, you have a neighbor up the street that has a house that's slightly larger and a little bit more upgraded, selling for $850,000, and it's been sitting on the market for 3 months. You need to take that into account when you're deciding what the price of your house is going to be. You also need to look at what buyers are searching for. When they go into Zillow, are they saying, I want homes that are $815,000 and above? Or are they saying, I want homes that are $800,000 and above? Or on the low side of things, they might be looking for homes that are $650,000 to $800,000. If you then go and price your home at $815,000, those people that are searching for homes online that have their filters set for a maximum of $800,000 that maybe could stretch and get to that $815,000 are not going to see your home pop up on their email list. So you need to take all this into account when you're deciding on the market price for your home to get as many qualified buyers into your house as possible to give you the best chance of not only getting the best offer, but also getting that into escrow quickly so it's not sitting on the market for months at a time and eventually you have to start reducing your price. So these are just some of the things that I'm looking at as an agent when I'm talking to sellers trying to figure out what is the best marketing price for their house, because again, a marketing price is completely different than the fair market value price. You're trying to get as many qualified buyers into the house as possible, and doing that in today's market requires a little bit of creativity and a lot of marketing. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look on the buying side of things. So if you're thinking of buying a home in the fall market, here's a few recommendations that I have. Number one, interest rates have been swinging dramatically over the last couple months, and that's probably going to continue over the next couple months as well, which means for you, it's very important that if you're getting a loan on the property, that you be in constant communication with your lender. Because I've seen rates over the last couple weeks move by more than 0.5% in just a week alone, which can dramatically impact your affordability, especially if you're trying to stretch towards the upper range of what you're approved for. So you might be able to be approved for a home one week, but then the next week rates jump by 0.5% and you can no longer afford that home. So make sure right before you place an offer, you're in communication with your lender and you can understand what the payments are most likely going to look like based on the current interest rate that day, because they are fluctuating a lot right now. So the second thing buyers need to pay attention to if they're trying to buy a home right now, and again, this goes back to the lender, is that right now, because rates are so high, it might make sense if you're planning on staying in the home for long term to start buying the rate down a little bit. And what this basically means is you're paying a lump sum to the lender in order to get a better interest rate. So that way your monthly payments could be dropping by hundreds of dollars a month. Now again, this is for long-term homeowners. It's not something I'd recommend if you're only going to be there 2 or 3 years. However, if you're going to be in there long-term, it makes sense to at least discuss those options with your lender to see if you have extra money, if you're able to buy down the rate so you're saving yourself hundreds of dollars every single month, making the house more affordable for you. Now, if you don't have extra cash set aside, in today's market, in this cooling market that we're seeing, you might be able to still place an offer and actually ask the seller to credit you towards buying your rate down at the end of escrow. So it could be no money out of your pocket. The seller actually pays for you to buy that rate down and saves you a couple $100s a month. So make sure you discuss that with your agent, with your lender, to see if that's a possibility for you to do as well, because it could be a great option to not only get a great house accepted, but also have a much better interest rate for the next 30 years as well. And the third and probably most important thing that buyers need to be paying attention to right now is before they place the offer, you need to make sure your agent is doing a lot of research, running those comparable sales, and giving you an accurate fair market value of the home, because right now is not the time to be overpaying for a house. The market has slowed down, which means if you overpay for a house right now, the odds of you making that back up anytime soon are dramatically reduced. So you need to make sure that you're placing offers still most likely at market value, because that's the type of market we're in. And the third and probably most important thing that buyers need to remember right now is, even though yes, it's easier and you're going to have more success buying a home right now than you have over the last 2 years, which is exciting, you need to pay very close attention to those offer prices that you're offering for homes, because right now we are in a slight seller's market, so you might have 1 or 2 other offers to compete with. But if you overpay for a house right now, the housing market is not appreciating like it was over the last 2 years, which means you can't overpay for a home right now and you'll be able to make that back up in appreciation in a month or two. If you overpay for a house right now, it's going to take you significantly longer to be able to make up that appreciation, which means you're not going to have equity in your house, which is never a good thing for a buyer. So if you're placing offers on homes, make sure your agent is calling the listing agent every time before you place an offer, just to see what your competition is. See if you can find out if there's any other offers on their house. If there isn't, then 1, you want to make sure that you're finding the fair market value, but 2, you can try offering slightly under that market value to see if the seller will take it. And if the house has been sitting on the market for a month or 2, odds are, if the seller is serious about selling their home, they're still going to look at your offer seriously, and you might be able to get a house for a slightly under market value. It's not going to happen every time, but there's more opportunity for you as a buyer right now than there has been over the last 2 years. Now again, just because the seller is asking for a certain price, that doesn't mean that that's the fair market value of the home. So you need to make sure your agent is doing their due diligence, looking for that fair market value, and then you can base your pricing strategy that you're going to offer based on that price, not the list price of the home. So overall, I'm actually excited for the fall housing market in Orange County, because as long as interest rates stay averaging under that 6% mark, the most likely outcome is going to be supply continues dropping, demand continues dropping at about the same rate, which is going to keep us in about the same market we're in right now. And that means that sellers still have the opportunity to sell their house at fair market value, and buyers have the opportunity to purchase a house without having to compete so much and are able to get it at fair market value as well, which is setting us up to finish this year with a much healthier housing market than we've seen over the last couple years, which again, I'm actually excited about. So one more thing before I let you go today, if you found this content useful, can you do me a huge favor and make sure you hit that like, that heart, that subscribe button below. And if you know anybody that might find this useful, please consider sharing it with them as well. It would mean the world to me. So until next week, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye.